Good morning! A very, very happy morning to you, and I hope you're well. I hope you slept well. I hope you're still motivated and inspired and just taking, a moment each day to think about how you're taking care of yourself, how you're investing in yourself, and what it is you're going to prioritize that day. Is it still hydration that you struggle with? Is it still enough fiber? Is it enough protein? Is it movement? Is it sleep? Is it stress? And where you feel you're lacking the most is what we need to practice the most. So that's where it would take more effort and more intention. So today I would like to talk to you about and talk to you openly and honestly about my own thoughts, but also you've asked me to talk about something that is everywhere right now. It's all over the television, it's all over social media, it's all over TikTok, it's everywhere, and that is the GLP1 phenomenon, the medications that are there and out there for weight loss. They're more and more conversations are being had. I find it quite worrying, the types of conversations I'm overhearing at times. You have probably heard them by the names of Ozempic, Wegovy and Mounjaro. And celebrity headlines are there, they're being endorsed, they're almost being very much normalized. And clinics are offering weekly jabs. Lots of people are offering weekly jabs. I'm not quite sure why, but they are. So I think that we should always understand what it is we're doing and why, and what we think we're going to achieve by doing it. I had Stuart messaged me on a night, he was with his management team a couple of weeks ago, and I got a random text from him saying, "What are the greens powders that we use?" I'm like, why and who for? The fact that he doesn't know speaks volumes, doesn't it really? He just trusts what I give him. And he's like, there were two guys in the office, don't like what they're taking the real ones, RHEAL, they were on Dragon's Den. I've also tried those, didn't get along with them either. And I said, right, well, what are they doing? How else are they looking after the nutrition? What do they believe they're taking it for? What is it they're trying to overcome? Are they struggling with anything in particular? Anyway, they had no idea. And I just think it's just, they plucked this out of the social media world because they've been told that it should work well for them. And both of them were following this Huel liquid diet for about 4 days before they were both starving. Anyway, my point is that we should take our time to understand what something is and why we're thinking of taking it and what we think it might do for us and all the pros and cons that come with it. I would suggest that my biggest competitor right now is probably the jab, because we're in a world of instant gratification and people would rather spend almost £200 a month on an injection because they don't have to do anything for something they're going to achieve really, really quickly. And my biggest fear is that there's a huge piece missing from this, and that's the education piece around nutrition and movement and lifestyle. And that it doesn't matter to me whether you want to be on the jab, whether you're considering it, whether you want to know more, whether you're just curious about it. It is your choice. I make no judgment on that, but I do want to understand why, but also make sure that you're also fitting in that missing holistic piece. It cannot work alone. So what is the GLP-1? So it stands for glucagon-like peptide, and it is a hormone. So I think first and foremost, you have to recognize it's a hormone. Do you want a hormone in your body? Do you want a replacement hormone in your body right now? Do you know what that hormone does? So it's a hormone that your body naturally produces, and that hormone is produced in the gut. And what that hormone does is that it tells your brain you're full, so it works alongside leptin. It slows down our digestion, so we feel fuller for longer. It triggers insulin release, so we're getting that more balanced insulin and cortisol reaction after food intake, and so it lowers blood sugar levels. So what the GLP hormone medication does is it mimics the hormone that we're supposed to already have and do already have. And the medications were developed with type 2 diabetics in mind. That's how they were developed, because those type 2 diabetics do often, more often than not, suffer with other health related illnesses. And so many of those type 2 diabetics can have that type 2 diabetes reversed if they're managing their food intake and their insulin spikes, hence the reason they often get put on things like metformin, to medications to help them with insulin management and blood sugar management, because potentially when you first start off as type 2 diabetic, you haven't quite broken your insulin cycle, and so a little bit of nutrition can help. If that doesn't work, you go on medication, but then people aren't really looking after their nutrition because they're relying on the medication to do the work for them. But when doctors were kind of looking after these type 2 diabetics, they noticed that those type 2 diabetics were also losing weight. So they decided to also allow prescription of those drugs to help people with obesity and weight management. Now, the word obesity really pisses me off, because the scale for obesity is measured as your BMI, your body mass index, which is literally a very old, antiquated, ancient formula for how high you are and how much you weigh. It takes into no consideration what your body mass is. It takes into I'm getting ratty, aren't I? It doesn't take into consideration what your health is if you suffer with any symptoms, and it's just a way for the medical profession to be able to have a conversation with someone who has likely come and presented themselves with health issues. If they can, within 5 minutes, you can tell when somebody's walked through the door if they're really obese. If they're coming with health issues, they can just kind of, without saying you're fat and you're overweight, they can go down the BMI route and go down the obesity route. So the weight management, very subjective, because we shouldn't be dictated to or defined by a number. So this is all about, what are you striving for? What are you searching for? Are you searching for what you weigh and thinness and aesthetics, or are you really thinking about your overall health? The two can still go hand in hand. I'm not saying they can't, but what's not happening is the hand in hand. And what's happening is we're just going down a road for a quick fix, and there's something else, and there's a bigger picture to this. So in simple terms, it is an appetite suppressant. So the drug, the GLP1 drugs, work at the epicenter of us with our brain, and obviously we are hardwired through the vagus nerve to our gut. So you feel fuller sooner, and you have less desire to snack or overeat, which is great for people who are constantly overeating or are constantly snacking, and therefore are just eating more calories than they need, or don't really have a stop button. They've maybe broken that leptin-ghrelin relationship, so they're overriding their fullness a lot of the time. So that's great. So you can see why somebody would need that at times. It slows your digestion down, so it delays how quickly your stomach empties, so it will kind of keep you fuller for longer. That's exactly how it works. So you're satisfied for longer periods. I'm not quite sure about that. I've not looked into that enough yet, but I quite like the idea of my stomach and digestion working naturally with the types of food that I'm eating, with the right fibre. Now, you're reliant on these people that are taking the drugs to understand what already keeps them fuller for longer, but not only that, where they're getting their nutrients from. So we've got appetite suppression, we've got slower digestion. We've got the blood sugar control, so the medications also help the pancreas release insulin when needed. Now, does your body struggle with that already? Are you pre-type 2 diabetic? Do you have a family history of that? Because maybe that's something to consider, but why are you struggling with that? What have you done in the past? What are you doing right now? So your blood sugar remains more stable. Now we're more than capable of doing that ourselves. There is no need for a drug to do that unless you have a pancreas that has become insulin resistant, unless you're a type 1 diabetic, in which case you've already had medication all your life and will be on medication all your life, or you have taken type 2 diabetes to a level, or you're on pre-type 2 diabetes and you've taken it to level, or you're eating in such a way that your blood sugar is all over the place and your pancreas is really struggling. So that's what it's doing for the pancreas. It's helping the pancreas release insulin when it's needed, because sometimes the pancreas forgets. That's what's called being insulin sensitive or insulin resistant. And then because you're eating less and because you're metabolizing food differently, many people just lose weight as a result. But it's happening quite rapidly, it's happening quite quickly. But these drugs are not magic. Nothing is. It really isn't. So there is no medication, I believe, without consequences. And my whole desire in life is to be medication free and to be injury free. I want my body to do what it's supposed to do, and I am responsible for that, accountable for that, and have the power to do that, unless I have abused it significantly, or I am suffering with some health conditions that perhaps aren't my fault and might benefit from this. So these side effects, I believe, are real. These are what I've heard from people. I know a couple of people that are taking this jab. I don't know why. Well, I do know why. They just want to lose a few pounds. They're not particularly overweight, but they just don't want to eat because they don't want to put weight on. So not necessarily the right reason. So there has to be some thought behind this. So nausea, bloating, constipation, which you'd expect if it's slowing digestion down, fatigue and low energy, the two things that I really don't want, and I'm really trying to compensate. Muscle loss, because you're not eating enough. You're not eating enough protein. Your gut will be absolutely dying because you're not eating enough fiber. You're not getting enough vitamins. You're not getting enough minerals. The chances are you've not got enough energy to be strength training, so you're not. So you forfeited that, and there's a cost and a price for that. You're going to lose muscle mass. Nutrient deficiencies are just absolutely, that's just a given. They are such a low food intake. You're so not hungry. You're just not eating enough, and your body is really suffering. And then there are significant gallbladder risks and pancreatitis, which I have also heard people suffer with. You genuinely have a loss of interest in food, which sounds amazing, doesn't it, on paper, but it's not really, because it can become unhealthy. And what my fear is that relationships with food is what gets us into a sticky situation with our weight and our health in the beginning. Whether or not our relationship with food is to manage stress, or to manage anxiety, or to manage some other kind of emotion, or sadness, gladness, madness, or just a lack of understanding. So what the science and the research are showing, that the minute people stop these drugs, then that weight gain always returns. So it's just another yo-yo diet for a lot of people, unless they're making significant lifestyle changes alongside this drug. And my argument is, if it's a hormone the way it is, the same way that somebody that maybe, a type 2 diabetic stays on medication for life sometimes if they're not able to manage with nutrition and lifestyle, but somebody with thyroid issues have thyroxine for the rest of their life. So potentially this is a hormone that you have to be prepared to stay on for the rest of your life. It's not something that you hop in and out of, which is what I'm seeing all the time. So I don't think that these medications are for everyone. I think you need to think long and hard. I think that you really need to go to someone clinical. I think you really need to go to someone in the medical profession, not just a clinic, so to speak, where you can buy that, because people will take your money every day of the week. Yes, it is BMI related, and everybody's going to throw that at you straight away. I would say most people, my BMI meets the criteria. My BMI absolutely meets the criteria, because my BMI is high on paper. You know, I'm 5 foot and a bit, and I weigh quite heavy because I have, you know, a good proportion of muscle mass. I have a good proportion of body fat as well, but I don't have any health related issues or conditions. And I think that's really important. I'm not pre-diabetic. I don't have polycystic ovary syndrome. I don't have high blood pressure. You know, what is it that you have that's significant enough for you to want to consider a drug? I think that the criteria is that you need to have, very honestly and seriously, tried to address your lifestyle changes for 6 months or more. So, you know, what have you done about nutrition? What have you done about movement? What have you done about your habits? What have you done about stress and sleep? That's really important. So if somebody, you know, has done that for, I would suggest 12 months, but, you know, 6 months is fine, and there's no success, then maybe there's an argument to say that a medication might help. I think that there has to be real health consequences from your excess weight. So if you believe you are overweight enough and you have some serious health consequences, then maybe. Are you already being monitored by a healthcare professional for other things? In which case, have a chat with them about it. But are you honestly ready to pair your medication with nutrition, with exercise, and with some mindset work? And that mindset work takes years, and is often the biggest part of the puzzle. So I don't feel that this is something that should be used as a shortcut or as an easy option or as an aesthetic tool. The aesthetic tool drives me crazy. It's a clinical tool, it's a medical tool, and it will always work best as part of a holistic approach. I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with not choosing medication. I don't judge if you do either. If you're feeling strong and stable and managing your health in a way that you feel is, you know, with balanced nutrition and regular movement and strength training, stress and sleep management, then I think you're already doing a really great job. And just because you're not getting the results that you'd like to see aesthetically, I think you're still doing the most powerful things for your metabolic health. You're not putting something in there that, let's face it, you know, they still don't know what the long-term effects will be. It's a bit like, for me, the COVID injection. You know, there's stuff that's out there now that we never had before, but they're blaming a jab or they're blaming something. And I just think to mess in that way when you're not suffering other than, you know, you feel a bit overweight, is a dangerous place to play. So I don't think that we should stigmatize people who are using it at all. But I don't think we should assume everyone that's overweight needs them and will be better for it. You know, your body, your story, your journey. But I do think that, you know, knowledge is empowerment. It's not a fad, because GLP1 is a science. It is a science. It certainly is trending right now. The influences that we get because of the way we're sold to and promoted to right now is there. I think that these medications can offer some real tangible help for those who really truly need it. But my concern is that the people that are taking it are not the ones that are truly needing it, and the ones that are taking it and truly needing it, there is still a missing piece of the puzzle. And the ones that are taking it as a, you know, I'll buy it for myself and I'll spend this money myself, are not taking the time to understand nutrition. So you know, if you're eating less, you need to maximize the nutrients within it. So I can still be there to support that, and would love to be there to support that for people that want to. But I think that it's definitely not a replacement for sustainable habits. And I think if you're considering it, you need to ask yourself, what's driving the choice, really? Are you really taking medical supervision? And do you have that medical supervision and support? And are you truly ready to embrace and support the whole process with nutrition and exercise? And are you prepared to stay on it for life? Ultimately, our goal shouldn't be to shrink our body. It should be to feel strong, capable, and healthy, with a healthy mindset in midlife and beyond. And I think that a time in our midlife when our hormones are changing anyway, and I've gone through quite a lot of the changes that we're facing, I'm not sure whether this hormone is going to be that particularly helpful for the majority of people unless you have those health conditions. So that's my honest thoughts on it. That's my honest opinion on it today. I really hope people are using it wisely. I really hope that they start to care as much about nutrition science as they do about aesthetic science. Wanting to be thinner, wanting to look younger, all of those things. I want to have a health span, and I want to have a lifespan. So I don't just want to grow old and be thin, weak. I want to be living it. And I want to grow old as young as possible. So I want to reverse, or not reverse, but can reverse, but slow down the aging process, but in the most holistic way possible, giving my body what it deserves, I think. So let me know if that's helpful, if it's what you wanted to hear, if you want me to, chat to you again, if it's just giving you some food for thought from somebody, hopefully that you trust, then hopefully that's something else just to put in your information pockets. And I'll see you again soon.